The Apache woman had no way out until the rancher said, "One more step and they respond." Sand shimmered under the heat, turning the landscape into a harsh, unwelcoming sea of gold and brown. Naya, an Apache woman in her mid-20s, squinted against the blinding light. Sweat ran down her forehead and back, and her throat felt parched, as if she had swallowed fire. She had been walking since before dawn, trying to lead her small family safely back to their village. The terrain was familiar, yet today it felt threatening, almost alive, as if the desert itself were warning her to turn back. Her family was behind her. Her younger brother, barely 10, stumbled over rocks, and her little cousin, only 6, clung to her hand. Their small dog, loyal and energetic, ran ahead and back, barking nervously at shadows that danced in the heat. Naya had tried to keep their spirits up, speaking softly, encouragingly, but inside she felt the weight of dread pressing down on her chest. They had been escaping from a group of bandits who had raided a nearby settlement, and although they had evaded them for hours, Naya knew the desert offered few hiding places. Every sound seemed amplified in the emptiness, the scrape of her sandals on rocks, the faint howl of wind through the canyons, even the small rustle of a bird overhead. Her senses were on high alert. She stopped for a moment to catch her breath, scanning the horizon. The desert offered no comfort, no trees to hide under, no streams to quench thirst. Even the mountains in the distance seemed distant, unreachable, like a mirage taunting them with hope they might never reach. Naya's mind wandered briefly to the memories of her village, the warmth of the fires at night, the sound of elders telling stories, and the laughter of children playing. That memory was sharp and bittersweet. She wanted to return there safe, with her brother and cousin beside her, but every step forward was uncertain. The bandits were not far behind. She could feel the danger, a constant shadow chasing them. Panic tried to creep in, but Naya forced herself to focus, to calculate, to find a way out. She had been taught survival skills since childhood: how to read the land, how to find water, how to move quietly, and how to stay calm in moments of fear. Now all that knowledge was being tested at once. The path ahead narrowed as they entered a rocky stretch, jagged stones jutting from the ground like broken teeth. Naya led her little group carefully, lifting her cousin over larger rocks and helping her brother avoid sharp edges. One misstep could mean injury, and in the desert, an injury could be fatal. She reminded them constantly to move slowly, to keep their heads down, and to stay alert. Even a small noise could draw the attention of the bandits, and Naya knew they could not fight them off if caught. Her hands trembled slightly as she checked that the children were still behind her. Their eyes were wide with fear, reflecting the harsh sunlight, but they trusted her completely. That trust was both a burden and a lifeline. She could not fail them. As the afternoon dragged on, the temperature rose further. Sweat soaked Naya's clothing, making each movement heavy and exhausting. She used the small scarf around her neck to wipe her face and tried to shield the children from the worst of the sun. The desert was merciless. Every step required careful thought. Every breath carried a little more weight. Her mind raced as she calculated the distance to the nearest canyon that might provide cover, the possibility of water, and the chances of encountering anyone who could help. Yet no solution seemed perfect. The bandits had blocked the main paths and the side routes were risky. Then, in a moment of quiet tension, Naya heard it, the faint sound of hooves in the distance. She froze, her heart pounding in her chest. She glanced back and saw shadows moving along the ridge. The bandits had found their trail. Fear surged like a wave, but she swallowed it down, knowing that panic would only make them slower, less careful. She turned to the children, her voice steady though low and urgent. "Stay close. Do not make a sound. Keep your eyes on me." The children obeyed without question, gripping her hands tightly, trusting her instinctively. Naya's mind worked frantically, searching for a way to avoid confrontation. She spotted a narrow ravine to the left, hidden partially by tall boulders. It was dangerous terrain, steep and uneven, but it was the only way to throw off pursuit. Carefully, she guided the children toward it, taking deliberate steps. Their little feet struggled over the rough ground, but Naya's encouragement kept them moving. Sweat dripped into her eyes, and she blinked rapidly, refusing to give herself a moment to imagine the consequences if they were caught. Every instinct screamed at her to run faster, but she knew that speed without caution could be deadly. The shadows behind them grew closer, and Naya could hear faint voices calling in harsh tones. The bandits were searching, combing the desert with cruel determination. Her heart ached at the thought of what might happen if they were discovered. But she kept moving, calculating each step, guiding the children through the safest path she could see. She reminded herself that she had survived worse dangers before, relying on courage, skill, and a sharp mind. This moment, she realized, was no different, even if it felt larger and more threatening. Hours passed like this, a tense dance across the desert floor. Naya's muscles ached and her throat was raw, but she refused to stop. The children grew weary, and she offered small words of comfort, promising them that safety was just ahead, though she was not entirely sure herself. The desert was silent around them except for the wind, yet the threat of the bandits was constant. Each sound, each movement, could betray their position. Naya moved with careful precision, each step a small victory against fear and exhaustion. As the sun began to dip toward the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, Naya finally allowed herself a small moment of hope. She spotted distant trees and the faint outline of a stream, a possible sanctuary. But the relief was tempered with caution. The bandits might have seen her path. They were still out there, still hunting. Naya took a deep breath, drawing strength from the land she knew so well, from the survival skills her elders had taught her, and from the trust the children placed in her. She tightened her grip on their hands and whispered, "We can make it. Keep going, just a little further." Every step from this point onward would be critical. Naya knew the desert could be unforgiving, but she also knew that courage, careful thinking, and unwavering determination might be enough to carry them through. She led the children onward, ready to face whatever came next, determined that nothing, not even the shadows chasing them, would break their spirit. In that vast, scorching desert, with danger looming behind and uncertainty ahead, Naya's resolve became a beacon, guiding her small family through the harshest trial of their lives. Naya moved carefully, her eyes scanning the horizon for any sign of danger. The sun had begun its descent, casting long shadows across the desert floor. The heat still pressed down on them, but the fading light brought a small comfort, a sign that night was approaching, and with it, a chance to hide more easily. Her little group followed closely, every step measured, every sound noted. The desert that had seemed so empty in the morning now seemed full of possibilities, both good and bad. Suddenly, a shadow flickered on a distant ridge. Naya froze, crouching slightly to keep herself and the children low. She motioned for them to stay quiet, pressing her finger to her lips. Her heart thumped in her chest, faster than it had all day. Could it be the bandits again? She hoped not, but she could not take the chance. She studied the figure carefully. The man was tall and broad-shouldered, moving slowly but deliberately. He did not carry weapons openly, yet there was a presence about him that made Naya pause. Her instinct told her to hide, to wait until she could see more clearly. But she also noticed something different about him. He was alone, and he seemed to be observing the desert, not her. Perhaps he was a traveler, or maybe a rancher familiar with the land. Naya's mind raced, trying to decide whether approaching him would be helpful or dangerous. The children were beginning to whisper nervously, their small voices breaking the tense silence. She held their hands tightly, whispering, "Stay calm, do not speak. We will be safe if we stay quiet and follow my lead." The man noticed them then. He raised his hand, not threateningly but in a cautious greeting. Naya took a small step forward, still keeping the children close. The man's voice was strong and calm when he spoke. "Are you alone?" he asked. His accent carried the rhythm of the plains, of someone used to living with the desert rather than against it. Naya hesitated but realized she had no choice. She nodded slightly, indicating the children, her eyes silently pleading for help. The man approached slowly, keeping his movements careful and visible. He introduced himself as Thomas Green, a rancher who had spent decades navigating the harsh lands of Arizona. Naya noticed a calm authority in him, a sense that he knew how to handle difficult situations. She could not yet trust him completely, but she sensed that he might be their only hope. She whispered the situation to him, quickly explaining that bandits had been chasing them and that they had no weapons or means to defend themselves. Thomas listened intently, his eyes narrowing as he considered the problem. "I can help," he said finally, his voice steady. "But you must trust me and do exactly as I say. One wrong move and it could be dangerous for all of us." Naya felt a surge of hope. She nodded, gripping the children's hands tightly and prepared to follow his instructions. Thomas scanned the area again, noting the ridges and shadows where the bandits might be hiding. He took a deep breath and began speaking, his voice carrying across the desert. "Hey! You there? Stop where you are." The bandits, who had been closing in on Naya's position, froze at the sound. Their attention shifted from the small family to the tall man on the ridge. Thomas continued, commanding their attention with words that were firm and unyielding. "One more step and they respond," he warned, a hint of authority in every syllable. Naya froze, unsure if he meant himself or the children, but the words carried weight. The bandits hesitated, uncertain of what to do next. Naya could see fear flicker in their eyes, the first sign that someone else had shifted the balance of power in the desert. The tension was almost unbearable. Naya's heart raced, but she forced herself to remain calm. She whispered to the children to stay low and follow her lead. Thomas slowly began moving toward them, signaling that it was safe to follow. Naya led the children carefully, stepping over rocks and uneven ground, each movement calculated to avoid attracting attention. The bandits shifted uneasily, unsure if they should advance or retreat. The desert, which had been a silent trap for so long, now seemed to hold its breath, waiting for what would happen next. As they moved, Thomas whispered instructions to Naya. He advised her on which paths were safer, where to avoid loose rocks, and how to keep the children moving quietly. Naya absorbed every word, grateful for his guidance. Each step was a mixture of fear and cautious hope. She could feel the bandits' eyes on them, but the presence of Thomas gave her a sense of control she had not felt since the morning. The children clung to her hands, their small bodies trembling, but they trusted her implicitly. That trust became a source of strength, allowing Naya to focus on the next step rather than the danger that lurked behind. The group moved toward a narrow ravine that Thomas had identified as a potential hiding place. It was steep and uneven, but it offered cover from both the sun and the bandits. Naya guided the children carefully, helping them over jagged rocks and avoiding loose gravel. Her muscles ached and sweat poured down her face, but she pushed through the exhaustion. Every step brought them closer to safety, and with Thomas's support, the impossible felt slightly more achievable. The bandits were cautious now, uncertain of the situation. Thomas kept them at a distance, using his voice and commanding presence to prevent any advance. Naya noticed that the bandits were beginning to doubt themselves. They whispered among themselves, glancing nervously at the rancher who seemed unshakable. Naya felt a small surge of hope. If they could hold their position long enough, there might be a chance to escape entirely. The children began to tire, their small legs struggling over the rocky terrain. Naya offered words of encouragement, keeping her voice calm and steady. "We are almost there, just a little further. You are doing so well." Her words, though simple, carried strength and reassurance. The children responded, moving with renewed determination. Even in the face of fear, they trusted her leadership. That trust was a lifeline, binding them together as they navigated the dangerous landscape. Hours seemed to pass like minutes. The sun dipped lower, casting shadows that stretched across the desert like dark fingers. Naya led the children into the narrow ravine, where the rocky walls offered shelter and partial concealment. They paused briefly, catching their breath, and Naya allowed herself a small moment of relief. The bandits were still out there, but Thomas's presence had shifted the balance. The immediate threat was mitigated, and they had a chance to plan their next move. Thomas guided them further into the ravine, showing them hidden paths that led to more secure positions. He spoke softly but with authority, giving instructions that were clear and precise. Naya followed every direction, grateful for his knowledge and calm demeanor. Each step was a mixture of fear, hope, and determination. The desert, once an overwhelming trap, now seemed a little less hostile with Thomas's guidance. As night began to fall, the group finally reached a small area sheltered by boulders and brush. It was not completely safe, but it offered cover and a moment to rest. Naya allowed herself a deep breath, feeling the tension slowly leave her body. The children, exhausted but relieved, huddled close to her. Thomas remained vigilant, scanning the surrounding desert, ensuring that no danger approached. The moment was tense but hopeful, a brief pause in an otherwise relentless day. Naya reflected on the day's events. The fear she had felt, the exhaustion, the constant threat, all of it had tested her in ways she had never imagined. Yet, with Thomas's intervention, she realized that help could come when least expected. Courage, trust, and careful thinking had guided them this far, and now there was a chance to survive the desert and the danger that had pursued them. She knew the journey was far from over, but for the first time that day, she allowed herself to believe that they could make it through. The desert night settled around them, cool and quiet compared to the harsh day. Stars emerged in the clear sky, offering a quiet beauty amidst the harshness of their journey. Naya stayed alert, but allowed herself to feel a small spark of hope. The presence of Thomas, the guidance he offered, and the trust she shared with the children had given them a fighting chance. The dangers were not gone, but with careful steps and vigilance, survival was possible. As they rested, Naya prepared mentally for the next part of their journey. She knew that the bandits could return, that the desert was still unforgiving, and that each step required thought, caution, and courage. Yet, she also knew that they were not entirely alone. The unexpected presence of a guiding hand had shifted their path, offering hope in a moment that had seemed utterly hopeless. For Naya, that hope was more powerful than fear, and it would carry them through the night and the challenges that lay ahead. The night was quiet, but the stillness of the desert did little to calm Naya's nerves. The shadows cast by the boulders of the ravine seemed to move with a life of their own, stretching and twisting as the moon climbed higher. She sat with the children close by, their small bodies trembling from exhaustion and fear. Even in the darkness, their eyes were wide and alert, trusting her completely to guide them safely through the dangers that lurked around them. Every sound made her pause, the distant howl of a coyote, the rustle of sand across rocks, even the faint whisper of wind through the canyon walls. Thomas remained alert, standing slightly apart, scanning the ridges and open stretches for any sign of the bandits. His presence was a quiet comfort to Naya, yet it also reminded her of the precariousness of their situation. She whispered softly to the children, telling them stories of her village and the lessons her elders had taught her. It was a strategy to keep their minds off the fear and to keep them moving mentally even as their bodies rested. The children clung to her words, their small hands still holding hers, trusting her completely in a way that strengthened her resolve. Hours passed slowly. Every sound, every movement in the distance sent a shiver through Naya. She knew the bandits had not given up. Their shadowy forms had vanished from sight, but the desert offered many hiding places. They could emerge at any moment. She shifted the children slightly, positioning them behind larger rocks for better cover. The small stream nearby offered water, but she limited their drinking, knowing they had to conserve their energy for what might come next. Survival in the desert required patience and careful thinking, and Naya knew she had to stay sharp. Thomas approached quietly, his voice low but firm. "We need to move," he said. "The bandits will not give up easily. They are calculating their next move. You must follow my lead exactly. One false step and it could be dangerous." Naya nodded, feeling a mix of relief and fear. Thomas's calm confidence was reassuring, yet it also reminded her that their lives depended on precision and careful planning. She held the children close and listened intently to his instructions, memorizing every detail and silently repeating them to herself to ensure she would not make a mistake. They began moving slowly through the ravine, using the natural cover of boulders and brush. Thomas took the lead, signaling when it was safe to move and when to pause. Naya followed closely, guiding the children with gentle but firm hands. Every step was deliberate, calculated, and careful. The desert that had once seemed like an open trap now became a landscape they navigated with skill, using the shadows and terrain to their advantage. Yet, the tension remained, a constant reminder of the danger behind them. Suddenly, a distant shout echoed through the canyon. Naya froze, her heart pounding. The bandits had found their trail. Thomas raised his hand, signaling them to remain still. His eyes scanned the horizon, calculating the distance and movement of the pursuers. Naya held her breath, whispering quietly to the children to stay calm. The shadows of the bandits appeared on a ridge, their movements cautious but determined. Thomas's warning from earlier, "One more step and they respond," had not been empty words. Now the moment of confrontation seemed inevitable. Thomas stepped forward slightly, his posture commanding attention. He raised his voice, firm and authoritative, addressing the bandits without fear. "Stop! You have no right to be here." His words echoed across the canyon, carrying the weight of experience and confidence. The bandits hesitated, surprised by the sudden boldness. They had expected fear and hesitation, not a man who seemed to control the desert itself with his voice. Naya felt a flicker of hope. Perhaps the bandits would reconsider, seeing that they were not alone and that the desert was no longer theirs to dominate. The standoff lasted for several tense minutes. Naya crouched behind the rocks, holding the children close. Every instinct told her to prepare for the worst, yet Thomas's presence was a stabilizing force. He moved carefully, positioning himself between the family and the bandits, his eyes never leaving the shadows. The children whispered questions, their voices trembling with fear. Naya reassured them gently, explaining that the man in front was helping them and that they must remain calm and follow instructions. Their small hands clung to hers, grounding her and reminding her of the responsibility she carried. Thomas spoke again, this time directly to the bandits. "You will not harm them. One more step and you will regret it." His tone was calm, yet it carried an unshakable warning. The bandits shifted uneasily, unsure whether to advance or retreat. Naya could see their hesitation, and it gave her a small surge of confidence. The power dynamics had shifted. No longer were they entirely at the mercy of the desert and their pursuers. The presence of authority and courage had created a fragile balance that, if handled carefully, could ensure their survival. Despite the temporary relief, Naya knew the danger was not over. She scanned the surroundings, noting potential escape routes, natural cover, and the shifting positions of the bandits. Her mind worked quickly, calculating distances, evaluating risks, and preparing for any sudden move. Thomas had given them a momentary advantage, but the desert was unforgiving, and the bandits were unpredictable. Every decision now mattered. Naya's instincts, honed through years of survival training, guided her. She moved silently, communicating with the children through small gestures, signaling them when to crouch, when to stay still, and when to follow her lead. Minutes stretched like hours as the standoff continued. The bandits whispered among themselves, casting uncertain glances at Thomas and the small family. Naya felt the tension in the air, thick and almost tangible. She focused on controlling her own fear, reminding herself that panic would only make mistakes more likely. The children, sensing her calm determination, began to quiet down, trusting her judgment even in the face of imminent danger. Their trust became a lifeline, binding them together and giving Naya the strength to face the standoff with steady resolve. Thomas took a cautious step forward, his movements deliberate and measured. He signaled to Naya, indicating that they could begin to move toward a safer location. She nodded subtly, understanding the importance of timing and coordination. With careful steps, she guided the children along the path Thomas had identified, each movement slow and precise. The bandits continued to watch, hesitant to make any sudden move. The desert, once a landscape of fear, became a stage for strategy and careful calculation. As they moved, Thomas whispered instructions to Naya. He pointed out areas of loose rock, places where the children could hide quickly if needed, and the best angles for remaining unseen. Naya absorbed every word, internalizing the guidance and preparing for any contingency. Each step was a mixture of fear and cautious hope, and with Thomas's support, the impossible seemed achievable. The children, though tired and scared, followed faithfully, their small hands clinging to hers as she led them through the narrow path. The bandits were slow to react. Their hesitation gave Naya the opportunity to put distance between them and danger. She felt her confidence grow with each careful step, even as the threat remained. Thomas remained vigilant, scanning every ridge and shadow, ensuring that no sudden attack could catch them off guard. The desert night offered both concealment and challenge, but Naya and Thomas used it to their advantage. Every cautious move brought them closer to a safer location, and the fragile balance of the standoff seemed to favor them. Finally, they reached a narrow canyon that offered natural cover and relative safety. Naya crouched behind a large boulder, pulling the children close. She allowed herself a brief moment to breathe, though she remained alert. Thomas positioned himself between them and the path the bandits might take, his presence a shield. The desert around them was quiet, save for the faint rustle of wind and the distant cry of an owl. Naya realized that this pause was critical. It offered a chance to rest, to plan, and to prepare for the next stage of their journey. In that tense silence, Naya reflected on the events of the day. She had faced fear, exhaustion, and the threat of violence, yet she had survived. The presence of Thomas had changed everything, turning a desperate situation into one where hope was possible. Courage, trust, and careful thinking had guided them this far, and now they had a chance to continue their journey safely. She tightened her grip on the children's hands, feeling their warmth and trust, and silently vowed to lead them to safety, no matter what challenges lay ahead. The night deepened, and the desert became cooler and more manageable. Stars twinkled above, offering a small sense of calm and beauty in an otherwise dangerous landscape. Naya remained alert, listening for any sound that might indicate movement. The bandits were still out there, but the standoff had shifted the balance of power. The immediate threat was reduced, and with careful planning, they could continue toward safety. Naya's determination was unwavering. She knew that every step, every decision, could mean the difference between survival and disaster. As they settled for a brief rest, Naya prepared mentally for the challenges ahead. She knew the desert was unforgiving, the bandits persistent, and every moment critical. Yet she also knew that courage, careful strategy, and trust could carry them through. With Thomas by their side and the children depending on her, she felt a renewed sense of purpose. The standoff had been a turning point, a moment where fear had been met with courage and skill. Now they had a chance to move forward to survive, and to reclaim the hope that had seemed lost in the scorching desert sun. The first hints of dawn crept over the desert horizon, painting the sky in soft shades of pink and gold. The night had been long, tense, and exhausting, but it had offered Naya and the children a brief respite from the relentless pursuit of the bandits. Their temporary refuge in the narrow canyon had given them a chance to rest, but the danger was far from over. Every sound, the call of a distant bird, the rustle of dry leaves, even the shifting of sand, kept Naya alert, her senses razor-sharp. She knew that they could not linger here for long. Thomas moved quietly, scanning the surrounding ridges and terrain. His experience as a rancher had taught him to read the land, to understand its hidden dangers and opportunities. He gestured for Naya to follow him, indicating a narrow, rocky path that led deeper into the canyon. "We need to keep moving," he whispered, his voice calm but firm. "The bandits are still out there and we cannot give them a chance to regroup. Stay close and follow my instructions exactly." Naya nodded, her grip tightening on the children's hands. The children, though exhausted and frightened, trusted her completely. Their small hands clung to hers as she guided them forward, step by careful step. The canyon walls loomed high above them, creating shadows that shifted with the rising sun. Naya moved with deliberate caution, her eyes scanning for loose rocks, hidden crevices, or anything that might give the bandits an advantage. Thomas led the way, signaling when to pause and when to move. He had a quiet authority that seemed to command the desert itself, and Naya found herself drawing strength from his presence. For the first time since the chase had begun, she felt a small sense of hope, though the tension in her chest never fully eased. As they moved, Thomas whispered advice on how to navigate the difficult terrain. "Step here," he instructed, pointing to a flat rock hidden beneath loose gravel. "Watch for loose stones, they can give way easily. Keep the children close and don't let them rush." Naya obeyed, guiding the children over the treacherous path. Her muscles ached from hours of constant movement, but adrenaline and determination kept her going. Every step forward was a small victory, a moment of survival in a desert that seemed determined to test them. Suddenly, a faint noise echoed through the canyon. A snapping branch, distant footsteps, the whisper of movement. Naya froze, her heart pounding. The bandits had not given up. Thomas raised a hand, signaling complete silence. Naya pressed herself against the canyon wall, pulling the children close. The little one's eyes were wide with fear and they clung to her tightly. She whispered softly to calm them, "Stay quiet. Breathe slowly. We are safe if we stay calm and follow the path." Thomas stepped forward cautiously, his eyes scanning the ridge above. "They're watching," he said in a low voice. "We have a small window to move, but we must be careful. Don't rush." Naya nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility settle on her shoulders. Every move mattered. Every decision could mean the difference between life and death. She guided the children carefully, moving one step at a time, using the natural cover of rocks and brush. The desert, which had been a trap hours before, now became a landscape of strategy, where patience and careful thinking offered a chance at survival. The narrow canyon twisted and turned, creating pockets of cover that Thomas pointed out to Naya. "Crouch here," he whispered, motioning toward a larger boulder that provided partial concealment. "The children stay low and we wait a moment. Observe the shadows." Naya followed his instructions precisely, positioning the children behind the rock. They were tense but quiet, trusting her guidance completely. Naya felt a surge of pride mixed with anxiety. Their survival depended on her and she refused to fail them. After a tense few minutes, Thomas signaled it was safe to move again. Naya guided the children along the winding path, carefully navigating over rocks and through narrow crevices. Her focus was absolute, every sense tuned to detect the slightest movement. The children, exhausted but obedient, followed faithfully. Even in their fear, they trusted her judgment, drawing strength from her calm determination. The desert, Once a threatening expanse of sand and rock, now became a landscape they moved through with careful precision and quiet courage. Hours passed and the sun climbed higher, warming the canyon walls. Naya's muscles ached, and the children's small bodies showed signs of fatigue, but Thomas's guidance kept them moving. "Almost there," he whispered. "There's a safer path ahead. Keep close and stay alert." Naya nodded, feeling a small surge of hope. The danger was not gone, but the immediate threat was lessening. The bandits had been slowed, distracted by Thomas's presence and authority, giving them a chance to reach relative safety. As they rounded a bend in the canyon, Naya spotted a small, hidden alcove formed by large boulders. It offered shelter from the sun, a place to rest, and partial concealment from any prying eyes. Thomas led them to the alcove, signaling for them to crouch and remain still. Naya guided the children inside, allowing them to sit and catch their breath. She handed them small sips of water, conserving what little they had for the journey ahead. Their relief was visible, though their fear remained. The desert had tested them, but they had survived this far, and that realization gave Naya renewed strength. Thomas scanned the surrounding terrain once more, ensuring that the path behind them was clear. "We are safe for now," he said quietly, "but we cannot stay long. The bandits may try again. We must continue to move toward the open plains where my ranch hands are waiting. They will help guide you to safety." Naya nodded, grateful for his guidance. She felt a growing sense of trust in Thomas, recognizing that his experience and calm presence had been crucial to their survival. Without him, they would have been lost in the desert hours ago. As they rested, Naya reflected on the strange turn of events. She had been certain that they would not survive the day. The bandits, the harsh desert sun, the treacherous terrain, all had seemed insurmountable. Yet the unexpected appearance of Thomas had changed everything. His calm authority, knowledge of the land, and willingness to intervene had given them a fighting chance. Naya realized that sometimes survival depended not only on skill and courage, but also on the unexpected help of others. After a brief rest, Thomas guided them out of the alcove and back onto the narrow canyon path. "Stay close," he instructed. "We move slowly step by step. Do not rush. Keep the children low and quiet." Naya obeyed, her focus absolute. Every movement was deliberate, every step calculated. The children followed faithfully, trusting her guidance completely. The desert, though still harsh and unforgiving, now seemed navigable with careful planning and courage. The bandits were nowhere in sight, but Naya knew the danger had not disappeared. Thomas remained vigilant, scanning every ridge and shadow. His presence was a constant reminder that they were not alone, and that the desert, though threatening, could be navigated with skill and careful thinking. Naya felt a growing sense of confidence, bolstered by his guidance and the children's trust. They were moving not just for survival, but toward a real chance at safety. As they progressed, Thomas pointed out natural landmarks and safe passages, guiding them toward the open plains beyond the canyon. Naya followed each instruction precisely, aware that the smallest mistake could undo everything. The children remained quiet and attentive, their small hands gripping hers as they moved together as a unit. The desert stretched endlessly around them, but step by careful step, they made progress. Hope began to replace fear, though the awareness of danger remained. Finally, after hours of careful navigation, they reached the edge of the canyon. Beyond it lay open plains, where Thomas had said his ranch hands would be waiting. The terrain was still challenging, but the immediate threat of the bandits seemed reduced. Naya felt a surge of relief, tempered by caution. They were not yet safe, but they were closer than they had been at any point in the past day. Every step had brought them closer to survival, and every step had reinforced Naya's determination to protect the children at all costs. As they paused at the canyon's edge, Naya looked back at the winding path they had navigated. The rocks, shadows, and narrow passages had all posed threats, yet they had managed to survive through careful planning, courage, and the unexpected guidance of Thomas. She realized that the desert, though harsh and unforgiving, had also revealed her own resilience and the strength of trust and collaboration. For the first time since their flight began, Naya felt a flicker of hope that they could truly reach safety. Thomas gestured toward the plains, signaling that it was time to move again. "We are almost there," he said. "Keep close and stay focused. Help is waiting just ahead." Naya held the children close, their small hands gripping hers, and together they stepped onto the open plains. The wind blew across their faces, carrying a sense of freedom that had seemed impossible hours before. The desert behind them was still dangerous, but the path forward offered a chance at safety and the promise of survival. The open plains stretched ahead of them, golden and vast, touched by the first warm rays of morning. Naya, with the children clinging tightly to her hands, stepped cautiously across the uneven terrain. Their muscles ached from hours of climbing, running, and hiding, but the sight of open land filled them with a sense of cautious hope. For the first time since the danger began, Naya allowed herself to imagine the possibility of safety. Yet she knew that they could not relax entirely. The bandits might still be lurking, watching, waiting for an opportunity to strike. Thomas led the way, moving with a quiet authority that seemed to command attention even in the vast openness of the plains. His eyes scanned every ridge, every shadow, and every patch of brush for any sign of danger. Naya followed closely, instructing the children to keep low and remain silent. The wind blew gently across the plains, rustling the dry grass and carrying the distant scent of water and life. Naya felt a small thrill of hope, a reminder that the desert, though harsh, also held the promise of survival and renewal. As they moved, Naya glanced back toward the canyon they had left behind. The jagged rocks and narrow passages had been terrifying, but they had also tested her resilience and courage. Every challenge had made her stronger, more alert, and more determined. The children, exhausted but obedient, followed without complaint, their trust in her unwavering. Naya realized that her own courage had been fueled not only by fear, but by love, the love she felt for these small lives she was responsible for. That realization gave her the strength to keep moving, even as every step was still filled with risk. Hours passed, and the plains stretched on endlessly. Naya led the children carefully, guided by Thomas's knowledge of the land. He pointed out natural landmarks to navigate by, helping them avoid dangerous dips and unstable ground. Naya absorbed every instruction, using it to plan the safest path forward. The bandits had not appeared, but the constant tension remained. Every shadow, every distant sound, reminded Naya that danger was never far in the desert. Yet for the first time she felt that they might be able to escape it entirely. Suddenly, a figure appeared on a distant ridge. Naya tensed, fear tightening her chest. She signaled for the children to stay low, holding them close. Thomas raised a hand, but his expression was calm. "Do not worry," he whispered. "Those are my ranch hands. They are here to help." Relief washed over Naya. The figures on the ridge moved toward them with steady steps, carrying water, food, and blankets. The sight of other people, allies who could offer safety and protection, was a balm to the tension that had gripped them for hours. Thomas guided Naya and the children to a shaded area near a small grove of trees, where the ranch hands had prepared a temporary resting spot. They offered water first, allowing the children to drink and cool their parched throats. Naya felt tears prick at her eyes. After hours of fear, exhaustion, and near despair, they were finally safe. The ranch hands spoke gently, reassuring the children, and Naya silently thanked Thomas for bringing them here. Without his intervention, they might never have made it this far. The desert, once a relentless and threatening force, now felt like a place where survival was possible. While the children rested and regained some strength, Thomas explained the next steps. "We will move toward my ranch," he said. "There you will find complete safety, food, and shelter. We will take care of you until it is safe to return home." Naya nodded, overwhelmed with gratitude. The thought of reaching a secure place where the children could rest and recover filled her with relief. For the first time in what felt like an eternity, she allowed herself to believe that they could survive this ordeal. As they prepared to continue, Naya reflected on the day's events. Every moment of fear, every step through the treacherous canyon, every cautious movement across the plains had been a test of endurance, intelligence, and courage. She realized that courage was not the absence of fear, but the ability to act despite it. Thomas's calm authority and knowledge had been the key to their survival, but her own determination and the children's trust had been just as crucial. Together, they had formed a fragile but unbreakable alliance, navigating the dangers of the desert with patience, skill, and care. The journey to the ranch was not easy. The plains, though open and easier to traverse than the canyon, held their own challenges. Loose rocks, sudden dips, and patches of thorny brush threatened to trip them, and the sun rose higher, bringing heat and exhaustion. Naya encouraged the children with soft words, reminding them to breathe and to keep moving. Thomas remained vigilant, guiding them along the safest path and checking for signs of the bandits or any other dangers. Step by careful step, they made progress, their determination strengthened by the promise of safety ahead. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the ranch came into view. A cluster of wooden buildings, fences, and livestock indicated a place of security and life. Naya's heart swelled with relief. The children's eyes lit up, their exhaustion temporarily forgotten in the sight of a safe haven. Thomas led them to the main house, where the ranch hands welcomed them warmly. Water, food, and soft blankets were offered immediately. Naya watched as the children drank, ate, and finally began to relax. The fear that had gripped them for hours melted away, replaced by a cautious sense of security. Once the children were settled, Thomas sat with Naya, giving her a moment to rest. "You did well," he said quietly. "Your courage and care for the children kept them safe. Without you, none of this would have been possible." Naya felt a mixture of relief and pride. The ordeal had tested every part of her being, but she had persevered. She realized that survival was not just about physical strength, but also about presence of mind, careful thinking, and the willingness to trust others when necessary. Thomas had been the unexpected ally, but she had also been the anchor for the children, guiding them through fear and uncertainty. As the morning sun rose higher, the ranch began to bustle with activity. Livestock moved in their pens, workers tended to their duties, and the warmth of human life contrasted sharply with the harsh emptiness of the desert they had left behind. Naya watched the children play quietly under the watchful eyes of the ranch hands. Their laughter, tentative at first, was a healing sound, reminding her that life could continue beyond fear and danger. She felt a deep sense of gratitude, not only for Thomas and the ranch hands, but for the resilience that had carried her and the children through the desert. Later, as the day settled into a calm afternoon, Naya reflected on the journey they had endured. The desert had been relentless, the bandits threatening, and the terrain unforgiving. Yet, through courage, careful thinking, trust, and unexpected help, they had survived. She realized that life was often unpredictable, that danger could appear without warning, but that hope and determination could create opportunities where none seemed possible. The events of the past day had shown her that strength came in many forms, physical, mental, and emotional, and that sometimes the smallest acts of courage could make the difference between survival and disaster. Thomas approached her once more, offering reassurance and guidance for the days ahead. "You and the children are safe now," he said. "Take time to rest, recover, and regain your strength. The desert is behind you, and there is a future ahead." Naya nodded, feeling a profound sense of relief. For the first time in what felt like an eternity, she allowed herself to breathe fully, to release the tension that had gripped her body since the desert chase began. She looked at the children, their faces now relaxed, and felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude and love. The story of that day, the fear, the chase, the careful navigation of the canyon, and the eventual arrival at the ranch, would remain with Naya forever. It was a story of survival, courage, trust, and the unexpected help of others in times of extreme danger. The desert had tested them to the limit, but it had also revealed the strength and resilience that lay within them. Naya knew that, despite the hardships, life would continue. The children would grow up with the memory of that day, not as a moment of defeat or fear, but as a lesson in courage, perseverance, and the importance of trust. As the sun dipped toward the horizon, casting long shadows over the ranch, Naya sat quietly, holding the children close. She felt the warmth of the buildings, the sound of life around her, and the knowledge that they had survived the desert and the danger that had pursued them. The journey had been harrowing, but it had also been a testament to human resilience, the power of guidance and trust, and the unexpected kindness of those willing to help in moments of crisis. Naya knew that, from this day forward, she would carry the lessons of courage, careful planning, and hope with her always. And in the quiet of that evening, with the children finally resting peacefully, Naya realized that they were free, not just from the bandits or the desert, but from fear itself. The journey had been long and filled with uncertainty, but it had also revealed a truth that she would never forget. Even in the darkest and most dangerous places, hope, courage, and trust could light the way to safety. The desert had been harsh, but survival was possible, and life, resilient and enduring, had won in the end.